Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this BEAD Workforce webinar. My name is Leo Garcia, and I am the Director of Florida Congress's Office of Broadband within the Division of Development. I'm joined today by Jacob Sjostrom, our Chief of Broadband Initiatives. Our office is excited for the opportunity to present you this information regarding our BEAD program and how we are planning to partner with the local workforce development boards to help Florida build out our broadband workforce. A couple housekeeping items before we begin. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat feature and we will address all questions at the end of the presentation. This presentation will be recorded and we'll have the recording and the slide deck posted within the next 2 business days. To start off, I will give a brief overview of the Office of Broadband. The office was created by the legislature in 2020 to encourage the use of broadband internet throughout the state, distribute grant funds to build new broadband infrastructure to unserved, and promote adoption and use of broadband in unserved, underserved, and rural areas of Florida. The vision of the office is to foster a connected economy that supports workforce and community development, education opportunities, resiliency, and telemedicine by increasing broadband availability, accessibility, and adoption. To date, the office has awarded more than $700 million in funding for new infrastructure, multi-purpose community facility upgrades, and digital device programs. Since 2020, Florida small cities and rural communities have received 85% of broadband infrastructure grants. These grants ensure Floridians across the state have reliable internet access to support workforce, education, and health monitoring opportunities. Additionally, our office values community engagement. That's why we have the local technology planning teams in all 67 counties in Florida. We will discuss further about our LTPTs and how they can be utilized during the application process. BEAD is a federal program funded through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for broadband infrastructure, as well as digital adoption and use activities, workforce development, and economic development. The office has been allocated more than $1.1 billion in funding through the BEAD program to serve all remaining unserved and underserved locations in Florida. This will also be the source of funding for the office's future workforce development and cybersecurity training efforts. Its goals for the program are to boost Florida's economic competitiveness through strategic broadband, expand access to reliable broadband through sustainable adoption and resilience, and equip Floridians with the resources and skills to meaningfully use the internet and digital devices. The Office of Broadband has been working on its initial proposals for BEAD funds, which details Florida's spending plan for the BEAD dollars. These proposals were approved by the federal government in fall of 2024, giving Florida the green light to move forward with its BEAD program. As we have discussed, Florida's BEAD program will fund both infrastructure deployment and non-deployment programming. The non-deployment program will fund Florida workforce efforts, which is the subject of today's webinar. We are partnering with Broadband Nation for outreach and marketing efforts on our broadband workforce development program. Broadband Nation's Florida-specific webpage will serve as a hub for job seekers to get information about a career in broadband and learn about specific jobs and career, including training opportunities. Now, I will turn it over to Jacob to give an overview of the BEAD Workforce Program.
Thank you, Leo. The BEAD non-deployment plan has $110 million in funding toward a comprehensive broadband workforce development program. The office has been in active conversation with private industry, academia, and other state government partners to develop a curriculum framework for deployment personnel before the release of BEAD deployment funding. The BEAD Workforce Development Program will also focus on apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs for Florida's broadband workforce. In preparation for the launch of this program, our office has partnered with the Florida Department of Education, CareerSource Florida, and the Reimagining Education and Career Help Office, also known as REACH, to develop a well-rounded program for our applicants. The office is currently in collaboration with multiple industry leaders, which include educational institutions, local workforce development boards, community action agencies, nonprofits, and the private sector to ensure any curricula and training programs developed have their needs in mind, allowing for a greater degree of confidence for job seekers and employers. For this RFA, local workforce development boards will be the only eligible entity for application. However, the boards are also eligible to participate in other activities not related to apprenticeships via our competitive grant. We will be hosting a separate webinar tomorrow regarding that competitive grant opportunity. There's no set total funding available for this application window. Subgrantees under this BEAD Workforce RFA will have a period of performance of 3 years. The application window will be the same as the competitive grant application. It will open on June 9th, 2025, and will close on Thursday, July 24th, 2025. Our office will be hosting office hours for technical assistance starting on Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. We encourage our applicants to utilize that time prior to the cycle opening to ask any questions they may have and pre-register for the application cycle. There will be no minimum or maximum award limits. However, requested amounts must be justifiable and directly related to broadband workforce development. There will be no required match for the grant, but supplying private funding or other leverage will lead to higher scoring applications. New training programs will be eligible for funding under the program, as well as expanding capacity for existing offerings. If standing up a new program, please specify the date that the new program would begin. Any entity that wishes to apply for a grant must first pre-register on the Office of Broadband's pre-registration portal. Successful pre-registration will create an account for your organization that will be used for funding applications once the grant windows officially open. Each organization will have only one account, but multiple users from your organization can be added to that account. Information from your pre-registration will pre-populate into your grant application, simplifying the grant application process once the window opens. We encourage organizations to pre-register in the portal as soon as possible so the office can assist with any potential technical issues that may arise. This RFA will fund broadband apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programming activities, as well as related apprenticeship workforce activities. Our overall goal is to ensure that local workforce development boards have all of the resources that they need to either stand up a new program or build capacity for an existing program. Therefore, a combination of different types of apprenticeship-related training activities, as provided on this slide, will be eligible through the BEAD Workforce RFA. For example, if it may take some time to set up a new broadband apprenticeship in your area, your board could apply for funds for short-term training activities that would have a more immediate impact until the RFA-funded apprenticeship has been finalized and is prepared for launch. Boards will be eligible to receive funding from both programs simultaneously. Receiving an award through one program will not preclude you from being awarded through the other program. The primary goal of the program is to train and hire broadband infrastructure deployment personnel to ensure that Florida has sufficient capacity to complete BEAD infrastructure build-out in a timely and efficient manner. Specifically, we're looking for telecommunications technicians, installers, repairers, and fiber splicers. There will be many different types of personnel utilized for the infrastructure rollout, and all will be eligible for training funding under the program, provided that the skills they learn can directly lead to a broadband job upon program completion. We're keeping in mind that the job classifications are not necessarily standardized across programs and databases, so we're flexible as long as it relates to broadband infrastructure deployment. The office will fund BEAD projects using both fiber optic and wireless technologies. So training for technicians of both of those technology types will be eligible under the program. An example of an acceptable training program would be the Telecommunications and Fiber Optic Technician Curriculum Framework developed by Miami-Dade College and MOSTEC and recently approved by the Florida Board of Education. As mentioned previously, our office is open to funding other training programs and curricula that teach industry-approved skills and can lead directly to employment upon program completion. Now I'll pass it back to Leo to expand upon the variety of different careers within the broadband industry.
Thank you, Jacob. On this slide, we have listed broadband careers and accompanying standard occupational classifications, better known as SOC codes, that will be eligible for funding under the program. Through this grant program, we are prioritizing programs that train the occupations highlighted in green. However, we recognize that there are many other relevant jobs related directly or indirectly to broadband and want to emphasize that training programs for these jobs will also be eligible for funding. There are many existing registered apprenticeship programs in Florida and nationally that correspond to these codes, all of which will be eligible for funding under the program. A successful application should speak to all aspects of the training program, including the educational component, wraparound services, facilities and training equipment, and job placement upon completion. Applicants will be asked to speak to the partners they plan to work with to provide services they won't be providing firsthand. Applicants will also be scored based on the demonstrated need for the project, including the level of economic impact the project will bring and the populations to be targeted by the training program. As stated previously, there's no cap on individual award size. However, applicants will have to submit a detailed budget with justifiable expenditures over the course of the 3-year period of performance. Additionally, our office will be holding office hours for technical assistance purposes on Tuesdays and Thursdays from May 27, 2025 to November 13, 2025. Office hours will be held from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on Tuesdays and from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Thursdays. To participate in the office hours, please visit the links on the Office of Broadband's webpage. We encourage our applicants to utilize this time to meet with our grant managers to answer any questions you may have about the application. Additionally, we would like to note that during the application curing process, we may send a request for information. The applicant will have 3 business days to submit the requested information. I will now hand it over back to Jacob to discuss the roles of the local workforce development boards that they will hold throughout this program.
Thank you, Leo. The local workforce development boards will be valuable with their existing relationships with the communities they serve. The office wants to ensure its funding is used to supplement those relationships to provide value to community members. The office also wants local workforce leaders to feel confident in the BEAD workforce programming so that you can speak to local job seekers about upcoming working opportunities in the broadband career field. Our office will lean heavily on workforce boards for assistance implementing our broadband apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programming, given your expertise, relationships, and experience in the area. Connecting with employers will be key, since employment is ultimately the most important element of any apprenticeship program. If you do not have existing relationships with broadband employers or contractors in your area, please contact our office for assistance. Through our grants, we have connected with most major internet service providers and will be able to provide a connection if necessary. Workforce boards also have extensive experience with on-the-job training and other types of work-based learning. We encourage workforce boards combining efforts across this RFA and the competitive application to create a sustainable training program across the short and long terms. As always, Florida Commerce is committed to community engagement. We recognize that strong local partnerships are the backbone of our programs. First, we want to remind you to reach out to the local technology planning team in your area. There is one team in each county, and the grant application will have a section regarding participation with the local teams, as well as the opportunity for the team to submit a letter of support on your behalf. Please reach out to the office if you need contact info for your local technology planning team leader. Many teams meet quarterly or only as needed, so please reach out as soon as possible to ensure that the team has ample time to review your project. Partnerships are eligible for funding under the grant. For example, a local board could partner with a nonprofit to provide wraparound services for apprentice workers enrolled in a training program. Additionally, projects should emphasize partnerships and relationships with employers so that prospective students can be confident they will find gainful employment upon program completion. Applications should also define specific areas and populations they will seek to serve with grant funding. There are many overlapping and interlocking workforce development institutions in a given area, so please make sure you speak specifically to the area you intend to serve. Subgrantees will have to adhere to the rules and regulations laid out in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Additionally, all subgrantees will be subject to 2 CFR 200 uniform administrative requirements as amended. Additionally, in 2 CFR 200 subpart F, the Single Audit Act applies to the total expenditure of $1 million or more. Please familiarize yourself with these requirements in order to ensure compliance. In addition to the federal regulatory requirements previously mentioned, there are also subgrantee reporting requirements. These include submittal of quarterly reports to Board of Commerce that include but are not limited to effectiveness of the use of funds provided, type of projects carried out using subgrant, and duration of subgrant. Additional reporting requirement details can be found within the BEAD, NOFO, or Notice of Funding Opportunity. Now, I will pass it back to Leah to take us through any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jacob. Now we will take a brief break to gather questions we have received thus. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat feature and we will address any questions received. If your question doesn't get addressed, please email them to broadband@commerce.fl.gov. All right, we'll take a brief pause now and we'll come back in a couple minutes. Thank you. All right, welcome back. We did receive a few questions. First question was, could we please provide the link to the pre-registration? We will definitely do that. We'll add it to the chat feature. And it's also included in the slide deck, which will be posted here in a couple days for your review. The next question related to the slides, as mentioned, they will be highlighted and provided on our website. So the list of the highlighted occupations that was shared will be available to you, and we can also include some additional resources to point you to some of those other occupations. Question regarding the funds. Can funds be used exclusively for training job seekers if there are no apprenticeships opportunities in the local area?
So for this opportunity, we're looking for apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship specifically, and related activities would be eligible in service of sort of complementing the apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. If you are only looking to apply for those related funds through on-the-job training or whatever with no apprenticeship attached, we would ask you to apply through the competitive grant application. That's the one we talked about. We'll have a webinar for it tomorrow. But if there's no apprenticeship application, that's what how we would ask you to handle it.
Next question received was regarding the recorded session. Again, they will be posted within the next couple of business days for you to review for those individuals that could not attend today's webinar. Regarding limitations of use of funds, what are the limitations?
So they need to be directly related to broadband apprenticeship and workforce training activities specifically. So we're looking for anything related to training. Wraparound services will be eligible under the program as well. We don't have a limit, a minimum or maximum limit on the application specifically, but just know we have a fairly extensive budget that we will be asking you all to speak to, and we'll be looking through that and making sure that everything is up to snuff in terms of the rates that are being charged and the specific things that you'll be speaking to in that. So, like I said, there's no limitations. However, like I said, the budget is fairly strict.
Next question, will indirect charges be allowable on this grant?
Indirect charges are allowable under the grant, but as we're saying, you need to spell them out specifically. You need to provide your indirect cost rate to us so that we can verify the way that you are purporting to spend your money in your budget. So like I said, they will be allowable, but we'll be taking a pretty close look at it.
Jacob, can you share the standards for the apprenticeship program that Miami-Dade and MOSTEC created?
Yes, sir. We can send you that. That program was approved by the Department of Education or the Florida Board of Education, and we can send you that curriculum framework for that.
Do the apprenticeship opportunities have to be registered apprenticeships? In other words, if an employer has an in-house program not registered with Florida Department of Education, would that qualify?
So I think we prefer registered apprenticeship programs. We can take that on a case-by-case basis. And if you have a specific question, I think you could follow up with us in the office hours on that. But I do think generally we're looking to fund registered apprenticeship programs specifically.
We had a couple other questions come in. Are these funds general revenue or federal funds?
These are federal funds funded through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was passed in 2021.
And then after you register in the portal, does application get sent to you directly or do we wait until the June date?
You'll wait until the June date. We'll have some communication with y'all once the window officially opens to remind you, but the portal will not remind you. Like I said, our communications will get sent to you and then you can come back June 9th once the window opens.
And just as a plug to that, if you visit our website, there is a button on our main page that says subscribe for updates. If you have not done so, please use that as another resource to ensure that you're receiving all of the communications that is sent out of our office. But just as you receive this information regarding the webinar, more than likely you've already been added to that list. But just to confirm, please do subscribe for updates on our website. And I believe Alex Sham just posted that link for those of you that have not had the opportunity for that. So thanks, Alex. All right, there's no more questions. So again, we would like to thank you for your engagement and attendance in this presentation. We are looking forward to receiving your applications for the BEAD Workforce Development Program and to keep moving forward in our vision to expand broadband in the state of Florida, engage with our partners, and advance a connected economy. If you have any other questions or if your questions did not get addressed, please feel free to contact us at broadband@commerce.fl.gov. Thank you.